Under the fading moonlight and starry sky, the garden looks breathtaking, especially in spring. The lush, dark green lawn and the gentle, soothing scent of the flowers bring back a nostalgia I had forgotten. The first time I was here, the spring sun shone brightly and warmly, illuminating Christopher's brown hair and giving it a reddish glow that took my breath away. But now, after years of pain and misery, he's bathed in the cool moonlight, which gives him an elegant yet distant aura. Christopher's presence here is a bit unexpected but not really shocking. I knew he hated putting on a show for me. In my earlier life, I would have been stressed, following him around the hall, begging for a couple's dance or any typical wedding tradition. Now, I couldn't thank him enough for staying away. I turn on my heels, ready to walk away, but Christopher's voice stops me, sending a chill up my spine. What are you doing here? I could ask the same thing if I cared, but I don't. So I slowly turn back in silence, lifting the ends of my long dress that drags along the stone path. Escaping the party, just like you. Isn't that obvious? Christopher's expression remains cold as he slips his cell phone into his pants pocket. I assume he was making a call, probably to Evelyn, reassuring her that, even though he now wears a gold ring, his heart still belongs to her. Anyway, I don't plan to bother you, so I'm leaving, I say, turning away again, but his voice stops me for the second time, making me glance over my shoulder. Escaping the party you wanted so badly? Christopher's tone is serious, almost sarcastic. His broad, firm shoulders, straight in a commanding posture, are obvious even through his elegant black suit. Who would have thought Charlotte Sinclair would lose interest so quickly in things she's obtained? Calling me Sinclair, on the day I took his last name as his wife, is meant to sting, but it doesn't. It's true. I won't deny that this marriage is my fault, both of them. I'm being selfish again, tying Christopher's fate to mine, even if it's just for a while, but he owes me that. He owes that to our son, who passed before birth, and he never shed a tear. That memory fills me with disgust, and I feel sick. I don't know how I will look into his face, but I need to endure for 6 more months until Grandpa's wake. I just need to wait until Christopher slides the divorce papers in front of me again. Just like before, this is bound to happen. Our marriage is meant to end. What can I say? I tend to get bored easily. Christopher looks at me, now dark and wary, with sharp eyes, measuring my silence with contempt, not liking my demeanor that much. Is that so? He takes a slow step forward, his gaze never leaving mine, and the soft crunch of gravel under his shoes echoes too loudly in the stillness of the night. You seem different. Is this one more of your games? I arch an eyebrow, my eyes sharpening. Different how? He shrugs a little, the gesture too smooth to seem casual, detached. Colder. I don't know. You used to cry and beg when I hurt you. The words hit something in me, not pain exactly, more like a flicker of grim satisfaction, and I give him a dry smile. Maybe I've finally grown out of bleeding for someone who gets pleasure from seeing it. His jaw clenches, a twitch so subtle I almost miss it, but it's definitely there. It seems I've hit a nerve. Stop playing games. His voice drops a few tones, growing huskier. If this is one of your attempts to get my attention, just grow out of that as well. Don't worry, I did, I say softly, turning fully toward him. I don't want to be your wife, Christopher. My words truly surprise him, judging by his stiff posture and narrowed eyes. Then, he scoffs with a mocking grin. Right. This marriage benefits both of us, especially you. Isn't that why you agreed to it? I tilt my head slightly, a faint smile on my lips that doesn't ach my cold eyes. As the son of Marshall Houghton's eldest child, Louis, you're the rightful heir. But even with your birthright, things aren't easy, are they? Christopher's eyes harden even more. If I didn't know we were in April, I'd think we're in the dead of winter. William is the oldest grandchild, the son of Marshall's second child, and he's also very close to your grandfather. Additionally, your Uncle Benedict might also be a suitable heir. Oh, and your brother. I don't need you to explain my family's politics to me. He cuts me off sharply, though he doesn't raise his voice. I'm fully aware of my position. Then surely you realize that winning your grandfather's favor again is the best way to secure the succession as planned and strengthen your claim. Besides, Grandpa Marshall is part of the House of Lords, but there's no guarantee you'll be chosen too. And Christopher won't be. Another family took the seat left by Marshall Houghton, and no vacancies have arisen for the next 10 years. Christopher never achieved his true desire. Serves him right. This marriage may have been forced on you, Christopher, but don't pretend it won't benefit you. We can both reach our goals if we use this marriage. And what do you want? Christopher steps toward me, each stride closing the gap and heightening the tension, thick and palpable. My attention, my love? I could never want his love anymore, not after everything, that's what I want to say, but when he stops just inches away, I just hold back those words. Christopher's scent is just as I remember, a woody, masculine fragrance that once gave me butterflies, even though we were rarely close enough for me to smell it. The clearest memory I have of this scent is from the only night we shared, but it was blended with whiskey, sweat, and pleasure. My throat tightens at the memory of his shaped, strong body pressed against mine, and my face flushes. The ghost of his touch still threatens to give me goosebumps, but now it would probably fill me with nothing but disgust. Christopher's breathing grows heavier, and his eyes lock onto mine. I can't remember the last time our gazes truly met or lingered for more than a brief second, but now he's looking at me like he's trying to unravel me, like my soul might still be exposed there. But it's not anymore. Time has gone by. I built my walls, and killed every last one of those butterflies. If you don't want to be my wife, then what do you want from this marriage? Christopher's words are so close they seem to shake against my lips, even though they aren't touching, even though they never have. But our breaths blend, and that's a strange and irritating sensation. Don't worry, I want nothing from you. I give him a dry smile, noticing his body tense and his brow furrow. I will be your wife to the world, Christopher, as my duty, but let's be clear, I don't want your love or your attention, and I couldn't care less about your personal life. In fact, I hope we both follow separate paths as much as possible during this arranged marriage. My words are steady, with no hesitation, and the confidence in my tone is so clear that I can almost sense the confusion flicker across Christopher's face. So go ahead and live as if I don't exist. Use this marriage for your benefit, and don't worry about trivial, pointless things like love. Are you serious? I turn my back to him again, but just as I start to walk away, Christopher's fingers close around my arm, gripping me and sliding across the thin, transparent fabric of my glove, a sensation I haven't felt in years, and it really sends hateful goosebumps across my skin. After everything, Charlotte. After years of obsessing over it and asking the Earl, you say you don't want this marriage? He tightens his grip slightly, his eyes locked on mine. Is this some kind of joke to you? Just another stupid whim? Are you trying to get my attention that badly? I part my lips to retort, already feeling anger bubbling inside my veins, but a familiar voice calls my name softly from behind. One that, like the others, I hadn't heard in a long time, but still adds thick layers of guilt around my already heavy heart. Latte? I slowly free my arm from Christopher's grip and cross my arms, establishing a subtle, safe, and sufficient distance between us. Sebastian, my brother-in-law and the man I once leaned on during my misguided first life as a weapon of revenge, approaches me like a knight. In my first foolish life, we shared the same bed for months. I hoped that being betrayed by his own brother might hurt Christopher, but he didn't care, of course. But now, strangely, Christopher's face hardens as he glances past my shoulder. I look at him, and now that I think about it, Sebastian is dressed in an extremely elegant white suit tonight. I hadn't noticed the meaning before, not in this life nor the previous one, but at first glance, anyone would mistake the younger brother for the groom, not the one who actually said I do at the altar. Seb. I offer a gentle smile, watching as he stops protectively between Christopher and me. Grandfather is looking for you. He was worried when you dashed off, Sebastian says, focusing entirely on me, his back to Christopher, whose expression is very stiff again. Are you okay? He should be worried about himself, I whisper, sadness in my voice as I timidly lift my eyes to meet my brother-in-law's gentle brown ones, so much like his brother's. And I can't help but remember the time I found comfort in him. After all, no one has ever given me the kind of look that Sebastian does, especially not Christopher. I used to crave affection, and he loved me beyond reason. Sebastian let himself be used, knowing it was only an affair from the beginning, and I became as corrupted as Christopher. That poisoned me, destroyed our friendship, and damaged my soul. And I hated myself for it. I hated myself more than anything else. I even asked God if I had married the wrong man, but that would mean none of it had happened, the pain or the good things. I would never have carried Henry for 8 months, waited anxiously for him, or mourned his loss. The truth is, feeling his tiny heart beating rapidly inside me, shopping for tiny clothes, and preparing the perfect nursery for his arrival, those few months together were worth a decade of pain from losing him. If I stayed with Sebastian, or chose him this time, or ran off to be with someone else, I might have another child or family, but it would never be my Henry. I don't just want another baby. I want that little one I never had the chance to hold in my arms. And for him I would endure anything. That's why I walked down that aisle again. That's why I'll endure 6 months until Christopher shows up with Evelyn at Grandpa's funeral and asks me for a divorce again. Let's head back to the party, Sebastian suggests, putting an arm around my lower back without glancing at his brother, and I sigh, nodding, ready to follow him back to that hellish gathering and finally end this terrible day. But before we could move away, Christopher's calm yet surprisingly firm voice stopped us. Don't you think you're being rude, little brother? Sebastian slightly turns toward his brother with a sarcastic smile on his lips. Excuse me? You're interrupting my conversation with Charlotte, my wife. Christopher crosses his arms, his eyes darkening. Mother would be mortified to see you behaving so rudely. I think we're past worrying about Mother's lectures. After all, she no longer can give them, Sebastian retorts, shrugging as his hand lightly slides over my waist. This subtle movement catches Christopher's eye, his gaze lingering on the fingers that don't touch my skin, and certainly aren't hotter than his scolding watch. See? It's not because you're 2 years younger that you're not involved in business and politics, Seb. It's because you haven't learned the basics of etiquette. Look at that suit. Do you really think white is a good choice to wear to your older brother's wedding? You know our family's tradition. Despite Christopher's tone staying calm and polished, the disdain is palpable. White is the groom's color. Sebastian smirks maliciously, a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Impressive, Christopher. You're right. White is the color for the groom, at least, it should be. But many things are switched tonight, don't you think? Christopher doesn't appear very bothered by his younger brother's words, just flickering a cynical smile, as he says, certainly, it's not a concern of yours, Sebastian. I rub the top of my nose. That's a dynamic I haven't witnessed in a very long time. Sebastian has always seen his older brother as a rival, but Christopher, perhaps out of arrogance or just because he knew he would never be overtaken, never cared about his siblings' remarks. You're right. I shouldn't concern myself with your affairs. But I am concerned, big brother. You have an appointment now, shouldn't you? Sebastian pulls me slightly against him, staking a claim Christopher clearly cares little about. Or at least, shouldn't care. Enjoy yourself, and don't worry, Charlotte is in good hands. Christopher's eyes sharpen, and for the first time, something sparks in his usually impassive expression. His jaw tightens just a little, the corner of his mouth twitching as if he's holding back a response, and his eyes, dark and calculating, stay fixed on Sebastian's hand, still resting possessively at my back. Good hands? Christopher sneers, his voice as smooth and sharp as a knife. He steps forward, eyes fixed on Sebastian's hand at my back, his smile bitter. You always did have a talent for overstepping. Sebastian doesn't flinch, he tilts his head slightly, a dangerous calm settling over his features. Better than your talent with promises, eh? Apparently. Christopher's smile falters, just slightly, but it's enough. He straightens, eyes narrowing, as the cool mask starts to break. You do love the sound of your own voice, don't you? He says dismissively, tone casual but just tight enough to betray the irritation he's trying to hide. Even when you're talking nonsense. Sebastian raises an eyebrow, still unimpressed, and snaps back, nonsense or not, someone has to fill the silences you leave behind. Christopher lets out a dry, humorless breath, running his tongue over his lips before replying. Still hovering, I see. He hums, the sound pretending to be casual, but landing more like a warning. He adjusts the cuff of his sleeve, slow and deliberate. You do love playing the part of the better man, huh? Some things never change. And some people never learn, Sebastian replies smoothly. Tired of being caught between the Houghton brothers, a role I've played too many times, I pull away from Sebastian's grip, making him look at me with a mix of surprise and hurt. Even though I don't want to hurt someone who has only ever loved me, I need to stay away. I know for sure that nothing good comes from getting involved with the Houghton brothers. Fortunately, all of this will be over in 6 months. I'll meet with Grandpa Marshall to make sure he knows I'm alright, then I'll leave, I say with a polished smile and glance at Christopher, who looks, oddly intrigued. Without saying another word, I lift the heavy skirt of my dress and walk away, ignoring Sebastian calling after me. I return to the ballroom, each step echoing on the cold marble floor, with all eyes on me as if they're pricking me with needles, as I take a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. It feels like I'm carrying the world on my shoulders, a burden built from everyone's expectations and judgments. I'm sure rumors of my sudden return from the garden are already circulating, especially when the brothers walk into the ball room together, pretending the brief argument never happened. Christopher's eyes briefly meet mine, and a million unspoken words pass between us in a heavy silence. He looks away first, shifting his focus back to the men around him, keeping his usual expression. Bitterness lingers in my mouth as Sebastian offers me an apologetic smile I can't return. I grab a glass of champagne from a passing waiter's tray and drink it quickly, feeling the bubbly liquid slide down my throat. But I still feel thirsty. Before the waiter walks away with the tray full of glasses, I stop him. Do you have anything stronger? Yes, Mrs. Houghton. We have whiskey, vodka, tequila, and rum. Which do you prefer? He asks with his best professional smile. Bring me whiskey. And vodka, I say without blinking, maintaining a steady tone. He gives me a curious look, his eyes lingering on my face just a moment longer than necessary, but he doesn't say a word and keeps his professional demeanor as he walks away quickly. Thankfully, it doesn't take long before he returns with the tray, now holding the 2 drinks I asked for. Thank you, I don't wait for him to offer them. I just grab them eagerly and down the whiskey, which burns as it goes down, spreading a warm sensation through my chest. The vodka quickly follows, soothing my throat and contrasting with the heat already spreading through my body. I take a deep breath, feeling the alcohol start to affect me, as I watch my guests wearing masks around me, and those fake smiles and shallow conversations seem even more irritating now. The waiter keeps circulating through the party, offering more champagne and giving me curious looks as I pour myself more than 1 glass, maybe wondering why the bride is in such a rush to get drunk. Finally, after a few more hours of sore feet and pinched toes, the party comes to an end. Now, alone in my room, still wearing my heavy dress, I remember how I waited all night for Christopher in his room. Years have gone by, but the taste in my mouth remains bitter. Screw him. The big bed with soft sheets seems to call to me, inviting me to let go of this fatigue. I guess I'll just look for Elodie. As I'm turning around, the door suddenly cracks open, startling me. To my surprise, my truly, genuine surprise, one that's stronger than a punch in the stomach, and contrary to my memories from my first life, my husband is here. Christopher? My voice slips out in a surprised whisper as I lean on the vanity, watching him freeze in the middle of the room with his broad shoulders and arrogant posture. He's no longer in the flawless black suit. Actually, he looks ready for bed, with his hair still wet from the shower, yet his presence can still be very commanding. Even though he's at a safe distance in this spacious room, having him here causes a discomfort that tightens my throat. After all, Christopher shouldn't be here. Not now, not in this house, tonight. And definitely not in my room. What are you doing here? Sitting on my bed in the dark of the room, today's memories weigh on my mind as I absent-mindedly rub my wet hair with a towel. I thought I could escape this place when I moved into my apartment in London, but my efforts were always in vain. And once again, they're pulling the strings on my body like I'm a damn puppet. The moonlight coming through the window is faint, creating a gap in the shadows on the floor, one I've been staring at for the past 5 minutes, almost without blinking. Water droplets fall from my hair despite trying to dry it. Charlotte's words echo in my mind for the 10th time since the party ended, and countless times since she left me standing in that garden. Don't want to be my wife? Don't want my love? After all this time? After so many years? After everything I've endured because of her foolish, selfish whims? I don't believe it. I don't believe a damn thing Charlotte says. With a sigh, I glance at my cell phone, noting the 12 missed calls from Evelyn, who's probably pissed off waiting for me. I should meet her tonight. I was supposed to be at her apartment by now. But instead, I sit on this old bed, trying to understand Charlotte's mind. Damn it. I throw the phone aside and sigh again, running my hand through my damp hair. Despite my efforts, my thoughts circle back to Charlotte's words and, worse, to her cold, resentful eyes at the altar. What is wrong with me? I murmur to myself in the solitude of the room, my voice surprisingly hoarse, as if something's caught in my throat, as if there's a tightness in my chest I can't quite place. Why am I so surprised? This isn't the first time she's changed right before my eyes. It has happened once before, and all because of Houghton. I can understand why my grandfather always had a soft spot for her, I really do. Not only was she really cute, but she was the granddaughter of the man who saved his life. Perhaps to express his gratitude, he treated her like a princess who needed to be pampered and protected. But his care knew no limits, expressed through extravagant gestures worthy of an earl. For Charlotte's 13th birthday, her first birthday here, he organized a princess-worthy party at Windsor Castle. On another occasion, he brought snow in from Canada so she could enjoy a white Christmas during a particularly dry winter in England. And when Charlotte briefly showed interest in ballet, my grandfather hired the principal dancer of a well-known dance company just to give her private lessons, risking the woman's career. The attempt to satisfy Charlotte felt never-ending. Each of her desires was met with nearly overwhelming enthusiasm, and she never experienced anything negative. Marshall never said no to her. But it was different for me. While Charlotte attended parties and ballet lessons, I was given advanced books and tutoring in Latin and classical Greek. The gifts I received were intended to prepare me for leadership and academic success, not out of sentimentalism. Maybe that's why our worlds are so different. Charlotte grew up expecting the world to always fulfill her desires, while I learned that every privilege came with responsibilities and high expectations. Despite these differences in our upbringing, Charlotte and I got along well. At first, I saw her as a little sister who needed protection and guidance, partly due to my grandfather's affection and her sad past. But when I least expected it, my grandfather made a decision that profoundly shook my world. He announced a forced engagement between Charlotte and me when she turned 18. Just like that. No room for discussion. No concern about how I felt. No hesitation. Marshall just called me into his study, poured himself a glass of his favorite brandy, which he didn't offer me, and told me plainly, "Charlotte will be your wife." I didn't even show any reaction, not outwardly, at least. I'd been conditioned not to. Years of being shaped into the next head of the Houghton family had taught me to control my face, listen carefully, nod appropriately, and adapt. But inside, something twisted. Not because it was Charlotte, but because it was decided for me. The idea of an arranged marriage wasn't unusual in our family tradition, but picking Charlotte as my fiancée felt like a cruel twist of fate. I thought it was some kind of joke, a dramatic gesture that would pass, but then he said it. "If you refuse, I'll cut you off from the estate, from the company, from your inheritance. You won't be my heir anymore." And just like that, my life, everything I had trained for, sacrificed for, and endured, was put on the table like a bargaining chip. That was the moment I understood I was just a pawn. The sweet, shy girl I once saw as a little sister had grown into a young woman willing to use every ounce of her power to trap me. And she did so, for 4 long years. Because of that, I had no choice but to marry her. Because Marshall made it clear that saying no would mean losing everything. But now the wedding had finally arrived, and Charlotte didn't look happy. She seemed distant, calm, and resolute, nothing like her usual cheerful self. She should be over the moon about such an event, surrounded by all the attention and worship. But there she was, acting like it was all a bother. There was no joy in her eyes, only a kind of resignation blended with a purpose I couldn't understand. But she was the one who insisted on it. She was the one who begged for it. And I paid the damn price. I'm stuck in this damn situation, trapped in a cursed engagement because of her. So what the fuck does she mean with that "I don't want to be your wife" bullshit? Those words, they somehow trigger a flood of conflicting, messed up feelings inside me. It shouldn't be a big deal. Actually, it's a good thing. If I hadn't been able to annul the engagement before, maybe now I can get a peaceful divorce. A sudden chill creeps into my chest, causing me to flinch before a disbelieving laugh escapes. What the fuck? I murmur with a sarcastic, humorless smile. I must be losing my mind. No. I'm not thinking about her right now. I'm not. Charlotte's detached eyes break through my defenses and surface in my mind, despite all my efforts to keep her out, and those distant, cold eyes weigh heavily in my stomach in a way I'd never dare admit out loud. Why am I feeling so distressed? I can't fucking believe it. Even after everything, am I still letting that spoiled brat get under my skin? Just go fuck sleep, Christopher, I murmur to myself, growling, turning around in the bed. Yes, sleep. I'm just annoyed to be back in this damn villa, that's all. Don't think much about it. I rest my arm over my face, fingers tugging at my hair to ground me. But even with my eyes closed, I can't shake a strange unease and urge to talk to Charlotte. Why? Why I feel like I could snap if I don't see her fucking now. I need to understand the real meaning of her words. I need to find what she hides in those now opaque, cold, and distant eyes. I really lost my mind. I quickly stand up and leave my room, not even bothering to close the door behind me. I'm not usually impulsive, but my legs seem to have a mind of their own, moving me down the quiet hallway of the large estate. The cold wooden floor creaks under my steps as I pass ancient portraits that hang on the walls, silent witnesses of many generations of our family. The house is quiet at this hour, and most guests have either gone to their rooms or are still celebrating in other halls. But when I finally get to Charlotte's bedroom door, I hesitate for a moment. I always hesitate. But today, I don't let my judgment get the better of me as it should. I turn the knob without knocking and push the door open. instantly finding Charlotte still in her wedding dress, more beautiful than when I saw her at the altar. And when her eyes fall on me, surprised and confused, a strange guilt cuts through my chest. I should ask you the same. Christopher slips his hands into the pockets of his sweatpants. At least, his firm posture and narrowed eyes tell me he's not here for a quick nighttime chat. This is my room, I retort softly, trying not to reveal that the place suddenly feels colder with his presence, even though my body is burning. Where else should I be? Why did I drink so much? In my room? It's not really a question, but I didn't expect him to be so straightforward. That's not necessary. I said I don't plan to be your wife. I snap again, turning away from him, hoping this topic ends. I need it to end. After a tiring day filled with emotional twists, too much alcohol, and literally ending my life and coming back, I need some time alone. And definitely, dealing with Christopher Houghton isn't the best way to end such a night. Still, he approaches, and through the large mirror, I can see his mysterious expression, with thick eyebrows slightly lowered and lips curved downward. You were about to explain why you stayed in this marriage for years, only to lose interest once the ring was on your finger, before my little brother interrupted us. Christopher looks at me curiously, and the sparkle in his eyes reveals the confusion I'm causing in his mind, but it also hints at a veiled resentment. Or so I think. So that's why you came here, you want a reason? I lower my eyes, glance at the slight mess on the vanity, hairbrushes, hair clips, skin creams, makeup. It's been a while since I put some. I already told you. You told me a lot of things all those years. Christopher's tone is calm but laced with something I can't quite identify. Now, it turns out most of them were just half-truths at best. My fingers brush against the wooden edge of the vanity, grounding me. The alcohol's warmth stays in my veins, making everything feel a little delayed, as if the world is moving a half-second ahead of me. Behind me, through the mirror, he watches me with an expression I can't quite read. Not anger, not disappointment, just waiting, as if he's giving me space to lie to him or daring me to tell the truth. Seriously, what are you doing here, Christopher? I'm here because I don't like being interrupted during important business, he says simply, his eyes fixed on my back, with his arms crossed and a posture worthy of a man born to be noble. And right now, you have my attention. Attention? Business? You're unbelievable. I give a bitter smile, removing the soft, long veil that touches my shoulders, and unclipping my bangs, letting the discreet waves fall back over my shoulders. With delicate, tender movements, I loosen the waves that unravel under my fingertips, creating a brown sea flowing down my back. You walk into my room, uninvited, at the end of the longest day of my life, a day that, believe me, feels like 10 damn years, and now you want to talk about business? Wasn't that what you meant by a marriage beneficial to everyone? Christopher moves even closer, and I catch a glimpse of his expression in the mirror. His eyes, still fixed on my back, seem to notice the details of the corset's lacing. I feel the burning gaze on the skin not covered by the fabric, and it makes my mouth even drier. You're right, I slowly turn to him, leaning against the vanity, trying not to show how much his presence affects me and warms my skin. This marriage is a business deal, both for me and for you. So I have something you want. He moves closer than I expected, just a few more steps, and I can smell his woody cologne again. What do you want so badly, Charlotte, to have made my life hell these last few years? Christopher's brown eyes analyze mine, which have long been cold, lonely, and empty. I wonder if he can tell that the Charlotte he knew is gone. What makes you think you have what I want? My voice is a sharp provocation that makes him half smile. Maybe what I want doesn't depend on you. Then you could have asked my grandfather to choose a different grandson instead of me. He took another step, closing the already short and uncomfortable distance and finally allowing me to smell him. You could have married someone else, maybe even my little brother. He's always had a special fondness for you, after all. Christopher's implication makes me feel sick. It seems like the strong drinks I had earlier are catching up with me now. He steps back and paces around the room thoughtfully, leaving a trail of his cologne behind. I take a deep breath and regret it instantly because I fill my lungs with Christopher's scent, which intoxicates me. In the short quietness that passes between us, even muffled and softened, his footsteps on the white carpet sound incredibly loud. I'm sure Sebastian would love to be in my place in every possible way. With his back to me, I can only imagine his usual expressionless face. If you had chosen him first, I'm sure the Earl would have gone along with your thoughtless wishes. He always did. Oh, should I? I hum, crossing my arms. Like you, Sebastian is the son of Marshall's firstborn. House rules state that if the eldest isn't considered suitable, the title naturally passes to him. but I am suitable. Christopher turned slowly, his gaze meeting mine with that same infuriating calm he's always worn like a second skin. I've been preparing for this my entire life. That doesn't change the fact that Sebastian is the main threat to your position. No, Charlotte, you're wrong, he cuts me, his voice lowering a few tones. You're the threat. You know too well that if I had married Sebastian, you would have lost your position, I say firmly, and he gives a sarcastic laugh. Oh, right. If you hadn't begged the Earl for this marriage, I wouldn't be at risk in the first place. I wouldn't be at risk of being seen as unfit for the title just because I refuse to marry a woman I don't love. I taste something bitter in my mouth, the words hitting harder than I want them to, because I know it's true. Christopher turns to me, finally revealing those cold eyes I remember as the same ones that have ignored me for years without ever truly looking at me. So yes, Charlotte, from the moment my grandfather said he would only make me his heir if I married you, removing my rights, making me succumb to the whims of a spoiled girl who knows little about the world, you became the threat. He doesn't bother to hide the hostility rising in his voice. With each word, he finally sounds like the man I knew so well during those 10 miserable years. You brought this on us both. But now you're acting as if we both were forced, like we were in the same situation. When you choose this. I didn't. He walks towards me again, slowly, elegantly, intimidating, and I me. His eyes, my face lifted to appear more intimidating than I really am. In this intense stare, without blinking, I look at the man who, in just a few months, will place the divorce papers on the table and tell me to sign them. The man who dedicated himself to making my life miserable. Christopher's breath is shallow as he stops in front of me, closer than ever, closer than I can handle. Tell me, Charlotte, his hand doesn't touch me, but hovers just beside my waist, and I feel it like a flame licking the air between us. The tension has its own pulse now, beating faster than mine. Do you really think I believe what you say? I don't care whether you believe it or not, I say, keeping my eyes fixed on him, my voice velvety despite the coldness of my words and heart. I'm simply making it clear that I don't plan to get involved in your personal matters or relationships. This arranged marriage will not be an obstacle in your life or mine. Christopher's expression flickers, looking genuinely troubled. His lips quiver, and his eyes narrow, but all of this vanishes in an instant. As I said, I don't intend to be your real wife. I shrug with a subtle smile that doesn't reach my eyes. I honestly don't give a damn about what you do or the women you sleep with. I think you're confusing me with Sebastian, he retorts through clenched teeth, stepping forward again and gradually closing the gap between us. I'm not a man-whore. No, just a cheater. I smile dryly. The silence that follows is deafening, not in sound, but in weight. His jaw clenches so tightly I can almost hear his teeth grinding. For a moment, I think he might turn away again, take his bruised pride, and disappear like he always does when things cut too deep. But he doesn't. Instead, he leans in slowly, as if daring me to move. But I won't. I refuse to be the first to step back. A cheater? He echoes it. And who exactly have I cheated on, Charlotte? Because from what I recall, I made it very clear that engagement was never going to be real. That doesn't change the fact that it was real, and I was your fiancé. Not by choice. I laugh, a soft, hollow sound. No, I whisper. Never by choice. You really made that very clear. Christopher exhales sharply through his nose as if trying to hold back something sharp and rising in his chest. His gaze flicks away from mine for a moment, but that's not guilt, of course. Christopher doesn't feel guilty. It's just the weight of his own words catching up to him. When his eyes find mine again, he's armored once more. The curtains of the windows dance lightly with the breeze that enters the room and chills my skin. But it doesn't matter, Christopher. I told you, I don't care anymore. I turn subtly, focusing on the mirror, as I remove the long gloves that gradually expose my blushed skin. You're free to be with your lover. Discreetly, of course. Just keep doing your business. I won't be the wife who asks questions, or demands fidelity of someone whose heart never belonged to me. Christopher swallows hard at my seriousness, and his lips seem to tremble, but that look of apprehension quickly vanishes. He must know that the rumors about him not ending his relationship with Evelyn are growing louder and have already reached my ears. I had known even before. But instead of backing away, my obsession only intensified, and I made him walk up the aisle with me. Even as a married man who must fulfill his duties, Christopher loved her so much that he didn't care about risking his reputation, and for a man who believed appearances matter most, this shows a big act of love. He watches me closely, trying to find, in the depths of my lifeless eyes, any sign of deception. But I'm being honest. I no longer seek Christopher's attention. Once again, an intense silence falls between us, heightening the growing tension. He messes up his hair, turns his back on me, and I think he's finally going to leave. Like he did before, leaving his bride on the wedding night to sleep with his mistress. I ignore him, gently shifting my body to try to loosen the dress. In a difficult and nearly impossible awkward position, I try to reach the zipper, but it's no use. It's so heavy, no wonder I spent the entire night in this tight dress. It's impossible to take it off alone, especially after whiskey, vodka, and lots of champagne. I should look for Elodie. Turn around, Charlotte, Christopher says abruptly, his voice authoritative. I'll take your dress off.